Thanks, Camille, and hi, everybody. It's great to see so many new but also familiar faces on this call. As Camille said, my name's Allie. I work at APS, the American Physical Society, and I'm going to share a preview or a glimpse into the playbook I created during the playbook course. Let me share my screen because I have a small presentation to share with you all. Okay, it looks like I'm sharing. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, I see nodding heads. Great. So again, as Camille mentioned, one of the communities I manage is acronymed JUNIPER, or the Joint Network for Informal Physics Education and Research. So I'll explain what that is. So Juniper is a 1-year-old, 1.5-year-old. It's a toddler of a community of practice, again, hosted by the American Physical Society. And it is intended for people who design, facilitate, or study informal physics education activities and programs. We use the terminology informal physics education synonymously with the term public engagement with physics. A term you might also be more familiar with is science outreach, but really the community is for anyone who is involved in the umbrella of informal education, public engagement, outreach with physics. And so my playbook was an operations playbook. And it was hopefully intended to define community processes and activities. And so the audience for the playbook is actually not the wider community members, but the operations team for the community. So that includes myself as community manager, but also an assistant community manager that we have just started to onboard, as well as our communications and marketing team at APS who helps with managing our community. And so why I decided to start with an operations playbook, because certainly we could use one for the community members as well. But to start with the operations playbook was that we really were facing a challenge of scaling, and I needed to download the information that was in my brain onto pen and paper digitally, so that others could help with growing the community, and we could grow our team of people who are helping to support the Juniper community, as well as to increase transparency of how we operate, why we operate this way, all of our processes, and hopefully also being strategic in articulating all of these things to, again, help expand the number of people who can manage operations, but also to help us reflect on if we are staying to the scope of our community in the operations that we're doing. So that was the use case. And so in terms of what we hoped that this playbook would address, our questions, and you'll learn this if you take the course, in terms of what, who, why, how, when, and where. I believe I've gotten all the questions. So what is Juniper? Who are the members? What are the steps to advertise for our monthly coffee hour events? What metrics are we tracking? How frequently do we host events? So those types of questions. And so in terms of the format and structure, it lives currently as a Google Doc. The choice to use a Google Suite product was that APS is a G Suite organization, meaning all of our documents, or most of them, are housed in a Google Drive. So it would make for very easy access and compatibility with existing materials that we had. Also, because it's an operations playbook, I imagine that this would be very much a living document that needs to be updated rather frequently. And so hosting it for us on Google Docs would make it easy for me to manage access permissions and update permissions as well. And again, because this is meant for the operations team, not necessarily the wider community members, I wasn't concerned about having that broader access available. So the format and structure of the playbook, I've included here a screenshot of the table of contents. That's the other nice thing with Google Docs, is that it allowed me to organize things, I think, in a helpful way. And so there is a bunch of chapters, I guess, to this playbook. So first, I start with a user guide. So for those who are new to the playbook, how to orient themselves to it. And then sections on what is Juniper, who is part of Juniper, our processes and procedures, the tools we use, some key dates and timelines, metrics we track, and then a maintenance log with the intention that that will help us track updates to this document. Also, just to point out that I tried to be very descriptive in the headers, so making it easy to use. So formatting the headers as questions that the section should help answer. And also my shorthand to indicate, hey, these are key tips, using emojis to indicate that, again, to help the user hopefully orient themselves quickly to the document. And so this is an overview of the types of things that are in the playbook. This is not actually this is not a screenshot of the playbook. It is the information that goes into the playbook. And the color coding shows, I think, that during the course, right, as Camille said, we create a light playbook. So there's definitely all the green is the things that I have completed adding, and purple I had started adding, but also it's not complete. So the red is definitely things that still need to be added. And I mean, that's okay. It is a great starting point. And so I've included things like the purpose of the community. We already had a logic model describing the strategy behind the community, so that's included. What I haven't yet gotten to is like a brief history of the community, but that I think is not as important as some of the other things that I included. Similarly, using existing documents that we had, using that audit of what we already had in our community, I was able to easily, for example, in the how, incorporate our processes for running those monthly coffee hour events. But there's other processes that I still need to add in, but there are placeholders for them. And so just to give you some more screenshots of what the playbook actually looks like. So in the what is Juniper section, again, I tried to be very descriptive of, you would want to, for example, read this section for an overview of the community's mission, goals, and activities. So keeping in mind that the team I work with would need to, perhaps quickly absorb this information and know what is useful. This is an example of how I have called out crucial information, and I base that based on questions I get a lot. So as I defined for you at the beginning, what is informal physics education? That's a question we get a lot. And so I included that as a call out kind of key terminology box. Similarly, when there are key links that I want people to be able to easily access, I tried to offset that with, a table and colored formatting. And as I said, this is a living document, so there is a maintenance plan that I think we're starting to dabble in, although I admit have not fully tried out yet. But I think in the course, it helps you identify like what sections of the playbook do need to be updated and at what frequency. So I had identified that, like, who is involved in the community, how we're running some of our activities, and kind of what has been happening, and what are our metrics would have to be updated periodically as the community grows and evolves. And so the good thing is, I think I don't have to be the only one doing that. So I had anticipated we'll have quarterly or semi-annual kind of maintenance-a-thons to update this. That has not come up quite yet, but I think definitely we'll try that out this summer. And also, I think, as I mentioned, we have a new team member, and so it will help actually onboard them onto the project to help maintain some of our what section. So I'll be delegating some of that to them as well. And then who did I need to share the playbook with, and how have I done that? So Certainly my supervisor and team members. And so I have shared that at some of our regular meetings. And I needed to share that with them mostly for awareness and buy-in. Not that I didn't think buy-in in my particular case would be a challenge, but I definitely wanted kind of their approval and their awareness. And by sharing it at a meeting, I have that. They know it exists. My communications team contact who does a lot of the marketing for us, I have set to share with them at one of our quarterly meetings. So that's coming up, and I will, again, mostly just need that for buy-in, but to also ask them for any sense checking if there's things that they think should be added or that don't make sense. And then we, in April, hired a new assistant community manager, which is very exciting. So as one of their onboarding readings and documents, I gave them the playbook to look at, to have an introduction to the community. And I have also continued to point them to different sections of the playbook as we've been starting to delegate certain tasks for them. And then we also have an external team to APS that is involved in the project. And I have introduced it. My plan was to introduce it on an as-needed basis because they're not directly involved with the day-to-day operations. And so I have introduced it to one of those people so far. The others haven't needed it yet, and that's okay, but I have it in my back pocket if, I need to share it with them. And I think, let me see. I think that was the last slide for you all. So I will stop sharing now and happy to answer any questions in the last part of our call today.